Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1142 of our daily content grind. And I know what you are here for. You are here to hear my thoughts and opinions on the new 1027 reveals, because we got some very exciting reveals there. However, this entire week has been full of reveals, so I feel like it's unfair to just focus on the ones that came today. Also, because there's only a few of them, that doesn't make a whole video. So we're going to talk about the ones that happened earlier this week as well. We still don't have great photos of them, but the ones we do have, we'll be talking about on the news roundup tomorrow. For today, we are going to discuss first the MCM London event, the Comic-Con, that revealed a surprising number of brand new things coming to Transformers, which is kind of fascinating because there's some things in this that I didn't really have in any of my leak lists, which is surprising. We'll talk about that later. For now, we're going to talk about we're going to just start up with Ape Link here, the leader Optimus Primal retool with more blades and more armor, etc. I didn't get Optimus Primal. Depending on what I saw of Ape Link, I decided I was going to wait for that because it just seems like a more interesting design. I'm still not sold. I'm still not sold because it is still just a big gray monkey. I do like the new parts it comes with. I'm not a fan of the unpainted Matrix. That's a little bit weird. Just to color it orange. And the robot mode looks fine. I wish they had gone an extra mile to do something different. We didn't see Ape Link's robot mode in the movie, so they had carte blanche to retool the head, alter the chest somewhat. Because that's not the gorilla chest. Like, they could have altered the chest. Just do something outside of just, like, armor on the arms and new shoulder guards. Something a little bit different to kind of convey that it's not just Optimus Primal with a little bit of extra armor. It's just a little bit of coloring variation, which I think is a disappointing lack of opportunity taken. But it's essentially a second chance of getting the toy if you heard that the toy was good and you want to experience the engineering, so I'm not going to fault it on that. The next up, we had kind of a Space Bridge style reveal for a few things, and some of it is pretty standard. They're reissuing Dark of the Moon Shockwave, they're reissuing 86 Jazz. Still has the clear plastic that caused a lot of them to break. But the point is, we do have a few new ones that came up. Q, they officially showed off his new toy, which if the comments in my Discord channel were accurate, actually comes with the weapon that killed him. That's morbid. But it's one of those characters that's like, he's kind of a nearly nothing character in the movies, but he was technically in the movies, and his original US toy release got cut. So, yeah, it's nice that the character finally gets some kind of recognition and figure out there. So it doesn't look bad. It's got the old Albert Einstein look to it, so that's fine. Not a character that interests me, but, it fills the collection. If you have a Dark of the Moon collection with a missing Q, you can now fill that out very nicely. We also got a shot of what Ironhide's going to look like. It's artwork, but, it's a repaint and slight retool of the Ratchet. I actually just got the Ratchet in the mail today. Don't know if I'm going to talk about it or not. I'm going to give a few more passes in transformation before I decide. But yeah, there's a Ratchet toy, so obviously they're going to do an Ironhide toy as well, and vice versa. So this wasn't a surprise, but it's nice to see what it's actually going to look like. And it doesn't look bad. I think the mold, having it here as Ratchet, I do feel like it's going to present better as Ironhide. I will say that much. So cool to see that one's on the way. And this is surprising because I'm shocked that, we kind of have so much studio series for the first 3 years, but it's very sporadic what we have gotten for Age of Extinction and The Last Knight. Understandably so, because both of those, the movies started going downhill profit-wise after that, popularity-wise, so I can understand why they would be a little bit reluctant, but rather than tapping those movies, they were going to things like Gamer Edition to keep Studio Series alive. So I can kind of understand. I kind of understand why you'd avoid these, but also it seems like you're already scraping the bottom of the barrel. You want to get to you want to get to some of these other movie characters, please. So we have an Age of Extinction Optimus Prime on the way. His sword is huge, and it seems like his backpack is also seemingly huge. That said, I'm not sure how much you could do with that design to make it, lack a backpack. I know third-party companies have done it, but those are figures with about 200 transformation steps and a lot of fiddly panels, and I hate that. So I'm interested to see how Takara and Hasbro figured out how to do it at a retail level. I'm sure it's going to be better than the last attempts, which were not great figures, for being honest. And then we have the one that actually did make me happy. So they are doing another round of Studio Series Bumblebee movie, Bumblebee. However, they have heavily retooled it from its original release in order to make it as movie accurate as they possibly could. The downfall of that toy was that they had to base it off of the original concept model for Bumblebee in that movie, back when it was still a prequel to the Bayverse films. So he does look much more like the core, the Camaro style Bumblebee in robot mode than he actually did in the Bumblebee movie. This is taking the original figure and retooling it all, as far as they can to get it looking more screen accurate. So you've got the more rounded legs, you've got the armor on the arms looking a lot more correct. He does have more of that round, feeling that he had in that movie. It's not shown here. Tomorrow, when we go through more in-hand shots, I have seen photos of people with this toy in hand that have been able to rotate the door wings down and hide them against the back, so he has more of a movie silhouette to him. Obviously, he's going to have a lot of panel backpack going on, because that robot is not going to go into that Volkswagen easily. So yeah, we'll talk about that later on, but suffice to say, I'm glad they're going back and redoing this. I'm not sure it's going to get my money, maybe when I see it in person, but for now, I'm glad they're at least attempting it, because that toy was really disappointing and not a great representation of what I felt was the best live-action Bumblebee we ever had. Okay, so we're going to get that's MCM out of the way. Those were the reveals from that event. So let's go on to what actually showed off today, the stuff that's hot off the press. And we start with what I think was probably the biggest question mark when we found out about Age of the Primes through the initial leaks, and the Fallen was listed, and we're like, okay, there's like 3 or 4 different versions of the Fallen / Megatronus. Who's it going to be? It is the Dreamwave version. I should say it's mostly the Dreamwave version, because they do state that they have taken inspiration from other aspects of the Fallen, and his details are not exactly correct to the Dreamwave version. They are close, though. It is by and large the Dreamwave version, with a few liberties taken to make him a little bit more interesting. For instance, you can see on his arm, he has the Requiem Blaster, what would evolve and inspire Megatron's arm cannon. That's something that was introduced during the Megatronus part of the Fallen's existence. Even on the box, they split the difference by, the name on the box is Megatronus the Fallen. We will show you the box, because the box is worth talking about too, by the way. But no, this looks really, really cool. I mean, it's got those purple highlights, a lot of the dark black plastic. I was always worried they wouldn't do this toy because of the lack of diverse visuals, but they've gone for it, and it looks great. I have my concerns about the flame effects, because of course they always make the effect parts out of that soft plastic that has been known to stick to and even damage ABS parts over long term. When it's a blast effect that you can put on for displays and photos and then take off whenever you're not using it, that's one thing. That's one thing. Temporary exposure is perfectly fine. It's long term, where it will start eating away paint and ABS. The Fallen requires the flames. It's not the Fallen if he's not on fire. Not the proper, like, original version of the character anyway. These will have to stay on him at all times in order to actually look like the character. It's been happening for years. We've known about this problem with the soft plastic for years, so I'm hopeful Hasbro by now knows for a fact that this is an issue. I believe I've even seen it come up in Q&As where fans have gotten to ask Hasbro direct questions about these things. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that when this is in production, the effect parts that they include with it actually aren't susceptible to that. Hopefully that they have fixed that issue. And if not, I'm expecting a third-party company to come up with, solid plastic versions of the flames so that we can have a nice-looking Fallen that's not going to get damaged over time. Please and thank you if you are any of the such parties out there who can make that happen. I'm also noticing there's little details that they have added in that might indicate like future retools of this, because my brain always thinks of like, who's it going to be retooled into? It's not going to get retooled into Studio Series 86 Megatron, by the way. I don't think the silhouette's right, and I think it's going to take a lot of retooling to get that to happen. I think they're going to be different molds. But I do see little like squiggle lines in the chest. Not Megatron squiggles, more like a heartbeat monitor almost. Not that this is going to become Ratchet at any point. But it is clear there are details in there that are indicative of potential future retools. So maybe a little bit, maybe someone who can remember those details a little bit better than I could kind of sleuth out who this might be in the future. We'll take a look at the tank mode. I love how they described it, like, the Requiem blaster draws power from black holes. So like we had to give it this like suppressor on the front. It's like, no, you didn't. You had to make it a tank barrel. Just say you had to make it a tank barrel. We will not judge you for that. But it does look good in the tank mode. It's a nice, heavy, solid-looking tank. Way better than the titanium pulled off. Let's make that clear. Since that's the only take that we've had since then. It's the only version of the Fallen we've had since then. I'm seeing those extra flame effect parts hanging off on the side. I'm just kind of screaming, like, why is there no spot for those to go? Like, they did point out that they can come off of the cannon. So the cannon can actually look like it was recently fired. That's neat. But still, you'd think with all the space on the toy, they could come up with like some 5mm ports somewhere to make it look cool. Well, not gonna argue much. We don't even remember seeing the Fallen in vehicle mode, period. So it's whatever. Let's take a look at the packaging, which is lovely. I'm very happy they've done away with the sideways lettering. I hated the sideways logo on the boxes everywhere. I'm not happy with the font. I really do wish that, I wish that we had actually had, like, some kind of personality and flavor to what the font looked like. Like, give me some personality. Give me some, like, extra detail. Give me some flash. Not just this bold red lettering on the front of the box. Also, like, Age of the Primes. It looks like they're trying to be a little bit more consistent with what Studio Series and the Generations line are doing, which we'll show you that here in a bit, too. I don't like that they've ditched the Generations labeling for this, by the way. It feels like, kind of like we're homogenizing the brand a little bit this way. But I do like the return of the windowed packaging. I like the overall display of like the art on the side, art on the front. I don't like how oversized the box is and the fact that they're still hiding things in the accessory burritos in the back of the box. Show me everything I'm buying to convince me that this is worth the $55 you're expecting me to plunk down for it. The other side of the box is the interesting one, because we got a few Easter eggs as to what is actually here. Now, if I'm going to zoom in for you here, just so you can get a closer look at what we're talking about. So obviously we have Megatronus in the center. More importantly, we have Liege Maximo on the left, and he is very inspired by his appearance in Generation 2. So we're getting the classic depictions of the members of the 13. That's great. The talking point is the guy on the right, who, by the shape of the legs and the cannons on the shoulders and the shape of the head, that's Star Convoy. That is Star Convoy, and we know that he is slated to be a Titan-class character in the near future. So, the big question here is, why does he have Power Master Optimus Prime's chest? Now, we're going to go off on a little bit of a journey here, because this inspired so many thoughts at the same time. Imagine, if you will, they're releasing the 13 primes, which means that they have to acknowledge the 13th prime. And I will show you, look at the box again, the symbol of the 13th prime is over Star Convoy, which means they are taking the depiction of the 13, where Optimus Prime is the 13th, who basically gave up his divinity in order to live as a normal Transformer. I've never been a fan of that particular story point, but it does seem to be the one they go to the most. I'm already envisioning that they're working in some kind of backwards way of being able to retool this into a future Power Master Optimus Prime. That's what it feels like looking at this. But if they're going to include Star Convoy as the 13th prime, that would change the Generation 1 fiction entirely, so that Star Convoy is not the strongest form of Optimus Prime, and his final form in the proper G1 fiction before it ends. And then there's all the later stuff, like alternating and all that. That's all additive. That's all splinter canons and continuities. Primary G1 fiction ends with Star Convoy. But that means that when Optimus Prime gets resurrected in Battlestars into Star Convoy, that is no longer, that's not just him achieving this ultimate form, that's him regaining his divinity as one of the 13. Which is a crazy addition to the fiction and the mythos. I kind of love that direction. I kind of love that. That makes me like the concept more. Now, obviously it's not correct to Star Convoy. I'm expecting there to be some kind of alternate parts, potentially something that fits, like the Star Convoy chest would be on his back, and then like you unclip it, rotate it around, and then slap the chest on so it has the correct design. I'm expecting that to be addressed. This feels more like they're taking that big hollow gap in Star Convoy, and they're just like giving it a Power Master playability. So you're going to have a very Jinrai-esque Optimus Prime toy that combines with his trailer to make Star Convoy akin to Power Master Prime. And then if we get a Titan-class Power Master Optimus Prime in a couple of years, this is the mold you're going to use. I just love how many ramifications this one grainy photo can glean. It's kind of awesome. This video is going to go long as a result. I don't care. I love talking about this stuff. Let's get to the part that everyone's been waiting for. And yes, I've been making you wait 20 minutes for talk about this. They showed off the Constructicons, which is kind of nuts that that they showed off so much that they did. So Scrapper looks fine. He is being sold as a Voyager, which basically puts him as a Deluxe Plus. The justification is that he does have a lot more extra engineering crammed into him because he has to form a tilting ankle for Devastator. So he does have a much higher part count than a standard Deluxe. Also, they tried to bulk it out by giving him Devastator's blaster, which does separate into two smaller weapons he can use. They did point out that he has all the articulation and the gun accessory that his previous Titans Return figure didn't have, his Combiner War figure didn't have. Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. But yeah, in order to get all the Constructicons out at the same time, some have to be Deluxes, some have to be Voyagers. The Voyagers have extra engineering and extra parts to compensate. That's just going to be how it is. He looks fine. I'm sure someone out there is already crying over how hollow the inside of his arms look. We've been over the budgetary stuff, okay? You either have a 4-inch tall Transformer that's solid, or you have a 5.5-inch tall Transformer that's a little hollow and still completely functions fine as a Transformer. So, cry me a river. If you're that bothered by the hollow parts, I'm sure a third-party company is already measuring angles on this to develop gap fillers for the toy. I'm positive that's already in the process. Size comparison to Menasor, yeah. to their credit, it does feel like, hang on, I'm talking for a while, throat's starting to itch. It does seem like the Constructicons are going to be aiming for like very small Voyager, but also larger Deluxes in order to get the bulk that they need, because Devastator, to be the right size, does have to be a little bit taller in the individual components than your standard combiners, and it does have to be beefier in the end. You'll see why when we get into the other shots they showed off. They did Bone Crusher as well. Bone Crusher, again, looking fine, looking pretty much exactly like I would expect a Hasbro-made Devastator to look. It is a little bit weird just to see like a complete lack of any kind of paint and color to this guy, but also that's Bone Crusher. Like, that's how he's always been depicted, is just very sparse coloring, almost all lime green. They did point out that these are pre-production versions. This is not the final shade of green. They want to give the green a little bit more of an impact, a little bit more of a punch-up than this. So final colors still to come. So don't judge it based on that. We are still waiting for like the proper examples. You can see that regardless of being Deluxe and Voyager, they are going to be the same size. So you're going to have a uniform set of Constructicons. That's great to see. And you can see, yeah, like they actually do have a good bit of height to them, considering that they are aiming for being like large Deluxes. You know, coming up just past the grill of Optimus Prime's Studio Series 86 figure, which is considerably larger than a standard Voyager. That's actually a lot of... that gives me a little bit of hope for these. You know, it feels like these are going to be solidly made figures. They showed off the boxes, and here's where I talked about this feeling a little bit more homogenized. Studio Series has been lucky in that they've never really had to reinvent their packaging style in order to really stand out, right? They've been able to maintain basically the same style of packaging for like a decade now, which is really impressive. They are getting a major overhaul, and it's an overhaul that looks surprisingly similar to the ones we just saw with Age of the Primes. The boxes do have a very similar look to them. I'm not entirely thrilled with that because, yeah, while it's going to make the store shelves look very much more solid and more packed full of, like, you know, Transformer merchandise, it's going to look all uniform. It's going to fill up all these different pegs at the same time. It's a little bit disappointing in that they're taking some of the difference out of it. You know, like some of the added flavor of being like separate things. You know, and they're basically turning both, you know, essentially it's not even like Studio Series is adapting the Generations box, because this is closer to what Studio Series boxes look like than what Generations boxes look like. So it's inspired by the Studio Series packaging, but both of them now have it with only minor differences. I'm not crazy about that. But is what it is, don't care. I think the packaging still looks good. And again, they made a point to mention that, yes, plastic windows are returning to the packaging. And they even pointed out, yes, you won't have to worry about figures being headless anymore. You won't have to worry about figures missing, you know, having stolen parts, etc. I think it's basically the closest they'll ever come to acknowledging the reason they're putting the window back is because retailers didn't like how many vandalized toys they had to return. Point being, the packaging does look great. I wish the Generations and Studio Series lines kept their individuality and their uniqueness, but I do think it's going to be an interesting display at a toy store. And it's not a bad looking packaging at all. I think it's more improved than it is like disapproved. I meant to show the back of the packaging too. It's nothing thrilling, but you know, they showed off the back too. Here's what I was really surprised by. That is a full gray resin proto of Devastator, including all of the components that we didn't get to see individually. This is incredible. This is the kind of transparency I have been asking Hasbro for years. We know you can show this stuff off earlier. Just do it. You're not going to give away any corporate secrets. You're not going to give your competition any kind of edge or advantage. You're just going to show us what we are buying and what we are going to be investing in. This is the problem I had with the train bots. where I felt like Takara intentionally avoided showing you what the train bots are going to look like once they're combined, as a way of essentially deceiving you, because that set did not come together great once you had all 6. This gives me a lot more confidence. If they're willing to show the whole thing off now, I feel like it is going to be very, very good. They did acknowledge it's going to have extra parts in order to combine. So, you know, the forearms are not built in, the chest plate is not built in. All that is extra parts that'll be scattered amongst the various releases. And I'm trying to figure out how long haul is going to work. I'm actually presuming that long haul is just a normal robot and the thighs are a completely separate component that attaches to him, because I don't see how you work that in. Now, by comparison, yeah, Devastator is going to be considerably larger than Menasor, not only taller, but much beefier. And of course, there's no shared engineering, so all the toys are going to feel a lot more unique compared to how Menasor felt. And I think all of that is the right decision. Devastator should be a little bit beefier than the other combiners. That makes sense. And, you know, again, like, he looks like he's got the right size to him. Like, they've actually, you know, paid attention to proportions. I'm looking at things about Combiner War Devastator that bugged me, like the fact that Mixmaster, for whatever reason, was designed backwards from how he's supposed to be engineered. This one seems like it is like a more standard traditional take on Mixmaster, which is lovely to see. It looks great. He looks really, really great. I'm very much looking forward to him. Don't know if he'll replace the Combiner War one yet, but we'll see. And they showed the roadmap too. They showed the roadmap. So they're planning to have the first 2 out in April. July is their Commander, which is going to be Voyager, Long Haul, and Hook. Same as the others, they're going to be deluxe pluses with all the extra engineering they need in order to be the full torso of Devastator. And then tons of extra parts that get thrown in to kind of make up the bulk of it. According to what they said, they haven't revealed it, but what they've said is it does feel like it's worth the $90, and I'm going to have to trust that for now because we don't have anything else to gauge it by, other than I don't think they want to upset anybody. They were very adamant about not upsetting anybody with this line, so everything gets released within 1 calendar year. They were going to spread it out over 2, and they said no, one calendar year. Let's make sure we don't have another breakdown moment where one figure out of the whole batch and combiner gets really, really hard to get. And I do respect that they made that change. So we're getting a whole bunch of stuff all at once. So, yeah, in the span of like May, June, July, August, September, in the span of 5 months, you're going to be able to put together Studio Series 86 Devastator. This is the level of transparency I have been asking Hasbro for years. And they need to do more of it. There's a couple more things to point out over this whole thing. For starters, nothing here was really leaked. Did you notice that, like, we had, famous toy thief Prime versus Prime did get his hands on an ape link and started showing off little teasers of it the way he does. I'm like, dude, just show it. We know you have it. Just show it. Don't be a jerk about it. Don't give me this poorly photoshopped little thing of like, here's some new details. Hate that. Hate that I have to take sips of water while I'm mid-recording. But beyond that, and even then, he only got like a 1-day jump before Ape Link was revealed. Everything else, I have not seen. I haven't seen early reviewers get it. Haven't seen it pop up on eBay, have not seen it floating around on Twitter or popping up in my Discord. Everything that you've seen here today has been revealed by Hasbro by official means very recently. So Hasbro's actually doing everything I was hoping they would do. Being better at keeping their product releases to themselves. Better at being transparent about announcing their releases. That's all wonderful. That's a great step forward. The other thing they mentioned is that the way that they're releasing Transformers is going to change next year. They mentioned all of the Transformer lines, but I think, but they were specifically talking about Studio Series. Don't know if it's going to apply to all of these, but it sounds like it will. In previous years, they have done 4 to 5 waves of toys per year. They plan for 4, and sometimes another one slips in. But in order to get to 4 waves per year, there's always a re-release, or there's always a figure carried over from a previous wave. And that's to kind of fill the shelves with characters that are more popular. You know, like if they have a Bumblebee, they like to run a Bumblebee for 2 waves in a row. If there's a figure they expect to be popular, they plan to have a package refresh of it mixed in later on. They want to minimize that. They want to eliminate it. So, at the very least, confirmed for Studio Series and very likely for the others, we're only going to see 3 waves of new toys. So instead of a 3-month lifespan, molds will have a 4-month lifespan on the shelves. But the return on that is every wave will be nothing but brand new characters. You might get some retools in there, but you're not going to get package refreshes. So, you know, if a new deluxe wave comes out, 4 new characters. New deluxe wave, 4 months later, new deluxe wave, 4 new characters. Which I think is a way of dealing with a lot of product glut at retail. You know that a lot of those like 2-wave figures just like hang around shelves forever. That's kind of great to see that they're going to eliminate that. But also it does mean that you might have a better chance of getting a hold of things. You know, you won't have that last wave barely makes it into store thing, because it's only going to be 3 waves and 4 months to get product cleared out for the new wave to come in. Given that, you're going to have a much better chance of getting a hold of things from now on. That's actually pretty smart. And we're not losing out on the current number of Transformers that we are getting, because, we're already only getting about a dozen new deluxes out of one particular series a year. It just happens to be, it just happens to be like spread out over 4 waves with a bunch of extras mixed in. I mentioned this is what killed Core Class, because Core Class always had previous figures from previous waves, and always in so many numbers that it saturated the shelves and made the price point a very poor seller as a result. And you will note they talked about size classes for that are going to be affected by this. At no point do they actually mention Core Class. I think that puts it to bed. Core is done, at least as far as individual releases go. Point being, I think it's overall a positive change. It's a very unexpected one, but I think in the long run, it's going to be better for the brand. It's going to be better for us collectors in general. So that's everything. That is everything at MCM. That's everything released and announced by Hasbro today for the 10/27 event. This has gone way longer than I expected to, but those are the thoughts. That's everything I have to say about it. Everything. Let me know in the comments section what you're most excited about, whether it was Devastator, The Fallen, or anything else that's been announced, because there's been a ton released and revealed this week. Feel free to discuss it below. And of course, as always, I will see you next time.